Hey, everybody, and thank you for joining us here at the Free Assange Vigil. With me today is co host Misty Winston, our good friend Jason Burmess, and Deepa will be joining us shortly. But while we're waiting on her to hop in, I do want to run through the numbers with everybody. We have 3,791 days of the illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange. We have 752 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the US and the UK for a $4.2 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund to the nation of Ecuador. We have 717 days since District Judge Vanessa Baraitser's January 6th ruling denying Julian Assange bail after personally ordering his release and no extradition on January 4th. We have 1,416 days of federal incarceration for whistleblower Reality Winner. We have 1,346 days of inhumane treatment for the alleged Vault 7 whistleblower Joshua Schultz. And at least 929 of those days has been spent under special administrative measures. We have 751 days since the political persecution of Olabini started by the Ecuadorian government. But our two pieces of good news: Chelsea Manning has been out for 409 days and streams regularly to Twitch. And Jeremy Hammond has 56 days of freedom outside of a penitentiary. He is still under really strict parole, but he is no longer a resident of any federal or state institutions. So with that, how are you doing today, Missy?
I'm okay. I'm doing okay, I think. I don't know. It's just another day of bullshit, you know. Bill Maher's mad at people on Twitch, which is funny. He said Twitch, and it made me think of that with Chelsea streaming, but he's such a douche canoe. He really is. Anyway, how are you doing, Burmess? What's going on, man?
I'm doing super fantastic. Through the last week or so, I've been connecting with more and more new people. As you guys know, we're doing the Maskless Mother's Day picnic in Crow Creek Park, Bettendorf, Iowa, noon to 5 this Mother's Day. Everybody is welcome. I don't care how you voted. I don't care what your political beliefs are. What I do care about is that you come down, you bring your mother, your grandma, your sister, your daughter, whoever, and have a good time, have a burger, have a hot dog, and let people know that we don't have to wait for authoritarians to tell us to be human beings again. We can do that on our own. We don't have to wait for permission for July 4th. And I'm pretty pumped on it. I'm seeing a lot of small business owners. And actually, some other really good news. The sheriff of my county has recently released this with a little bit of pressure from these groups. As the sheriff of Scott County, I have directed my agency not to enforce mask mandates or to serve any business with an enforcement action for not following mask mandates within their establishment. Although the COVID-19 pandemic has had a serious effect on the lives of millions of people, as Americans, we are entitled to choose how we mitigate our own risks. The fear and anxiety created by those who demand compliance is inexcusable. And that is Sheriff Tim Lane, so we thank him for that.
So we just had Deepa hop in with us. How are you today, Deepa? Can you hear us okay?
I can. How are you guys? Can you hear me?
Doing well.
Yep,
yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Loud and clear.
Finally.
Yep.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Oh, yeah, you guys haven't met yet? Okay. Yeah, that's Jason. This is Deepa. Deepa, that's Jason. Proper introductions. How's it going, Deepa? I'm really excited for your event. I'm really glad that you're here because, well, tell everybody what you have coming up.
So this Saturday, that's Saturday the 8th, we're having this huge international festival of whistleblowing, dissent, and accountability. It sounds like a mouthful, but it's got some interesting stuff. We're having some art, some music, a few films. We're also having some of the most amazing people in the world, at least in my bit. People like Nancy Hollander, Niels Meltzer.
I was just reading through the list, and it is like there's amazing people that are going to be there. I mean, Max Blumenthal, Jonathan Cook, Marjorie Cohn. Let's see, Tariq Haddad, Selma James. I mean, there's just so many. Joe Loria, Lori Love, Ray McGovern, Stefania Maruzzi. I love her. Craig Murray. We love Craig Murray.
Yeah.
Oh, Juan Passarelli. And everybody knows how much I love Juan Passarelli. I talk about it all the time. He's one of my favorite people. John Pilger. Yeah. So it's an amazing list of, like, I could go on. It's an amazing, like, who's who of cool people.
Yeah. And Jeremy Hammond's going to be joining us too, which should be good because we haven't.
Wow,
heard
that's
from
going to
Jeremy
be
for a while.
awesome.
That is going to be awesome. So when does it start? What time does it start? How long is it running? What's the schedule? Like, tell us all about it, because everybody should check this out.
Thanks. So it starts at about 8 in the morning UK time, which is 3 a.m. New York time. So it's a bit early for you guys, but everything's recorded, so you can come back to some of the ones you missed later. But we continue through the day. We have people like, quite, I would say, controversial people like George Galloway, who has his own opinions and makes them very clear. We also have, I don't know, sorry, I'm echoing back to myself. Maybe there's a microphone on somewhere.
Is it me?
Mm-hmm.
Might be.
I don't hear it on this end.
Sorry.
Misty has a sneaky microphone that likes to echo every once in a while.
Yes, it's annoying. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
There's so we start in the morning with Nikki Haga, the New Zealand journalist who was also a witness in Julian Assange's case. He's a really exceptional investigative journalist who's really put his own life on the line to expose what's really going on in terms of war. We have a really interesting session later on called When the Criminals Control the Law. And we're going to have a few very interesting people talking about, for example, we've got Andrew Feinstein, who runs Corruption Watch and also is an expert on the arms trade. He's going to talk about what we call the Luanda leaks and also the corruption with Jacob Zuma in South Africa. Zuma, tried to make the South African people pay for his. He came out as being corrupt, and for his defense, he passed a law to allow the South African to force the South African people to pay for his legal fees, and they've just overturned that. So Andrew's going to tell us a little bit about that. We're going to have John Christensen, who founded the Tax Justice Network, talking about Jersey and the corruption there. We're going to have a few other interesting people through the day. Let me just pull up the list so I don't just make this up as I go along, because I've been speaking to a few people today and my brain's kind of fried, to be honest. So sorry that I'm so slow.
You're fine.
We have somebody who's quite interesting, and I hadn't realized quite how much significance he has. It's a gentleman by the name of Martin Garbus. He's an expert on the First Amendment, and for those of you who are interested in freedom of speech, who are interested in both our right to know and other people's right to tell us about things, I think his session will be really interesting. He'll be doing quite a detailed discussion about freedom of speech. We're also going to have a German panel for those of you who speak German, which is going to happen at one point in the day. We're having people like Nancy Hollander tell us about their experience defending terrorists. We have at about 6:30 in the evening, which is about 1:30 New York time. I don't know what it is in other places, but I think the central time zone is about 8 hours behind that. We have Mohamedou Ould Slahi, who was a detainee at Guantanamo, and he was detained for a very long time and treated really terribly. Those of you who've watched the film The Mauritanian will know his story, but he's going to come and talk to us about torture and how the US essentially evades its responsibilities within the law by keeping Guantanamo open. And alongside him, we're going to have Andy Worthington, who's an expert on Gitmo. We're also going to have people you like, Misty, people like Ray McGovern and John Kiriakou. And you spoke about Selma. Selma's now in her 90s, but she's a real firebrand for somebody in her 90s. She's still going strong, talking to us about race, sex, and class. We have an interesting guy called Frank McGuinness. He's a lawyer, and he's going to talk about why we should be freeing Assange and going after people like Tony Blair and George Bush. So that should be quite interesting. And then we have people like Norman Solomon, the journalist, and Chris Williamson and Justin Schlossberg. People you may or may not have heard of these people in the US. So sorry, I've been wittering on for a while. So over back to you.
No, I'm super excited actually for the whole list of speakers, because this is going to be an all day event. You guys kick off at like 8 o'clock in the morning in the UK, and then it just keeps going, which is, I believe, 3 o'clock Eastern time. 3 a.m. Eastern time is when we'll be starting out with you. So I'm super pumped to have that going.
Yeah, and it's going to go on till about just past midnight UK time, which is about 7 o'clock Eastern. And then we're going to have, on the next day, we're going to have a range of films being shown, one of which is a film which most people don't have access to yet. It's called Hacking Justice, and it's by this really amazing Spanish-German filmmaker called Clara Lopez Rubio, and she follows Baltasar Garzón and Julian through their court cases, through their relevant lives as well, and it's really good. It's really quite thoughtful and thought-provoking.
If I could jump in, is this going to be streamed on platforms like YouTube, or do you have a different platform that you're using? Obviously, everything's going to be archived. How's that going to work?
Thanks, Jason. We've tried very hard to kind of resist surveillance capitalism. So we're even the website on which you can find out what's going on. It's www.whistleblowingfest.org. That's www.whistleblowingfest.org. That's on a really interesting new site called Mobilizon, and when you click on that hashtag, you should not hashtag on that site title, you should be able to go into it. But we're going to show it on. We're going to run it on Jitsi, but on a version of Jitsi, but it's going to come out through Big Blue Button in terms of the bigger rooms will be on Big Blue Button. We'll also be streaming it through PeerTube. Of course, for those of you who are not on PeerTube or whatever, it's also going to be on YouTube, restreamed on YouTube and Twitter, so it'll be archived in those places. Cheers,
I believe Steve and Josh actually. I believe Steve and Josh are going to be streaming it on the Slow News Day and with A4A too, so it should be showing up on at least one Rockfin channel, if not 2 to 3.
Yeah, and everybody should check it out, because seriously, the list of people that are going to be in one or at one event at one time or during one day it's awesome. Like they're some of my favorite people, seriously. So yeah, definitely everybody should check that out.
Well, not to mention that, just the subject matter that she just brought up in regards to Abu Ghraib, Gitmo, these black sites. We were promised these were going away in 2007 by the entire left establishment in all of those debates. Everybody from Hillary Clinton to Joe Biden to John Edwards to, yes, Barack Obama, all told us they were shutting them down. And now Zombie Joe just doesn't seem to remember. I mean, admittedly, he doesn't seem to remember. But it's not like he's running anything.
There's a very good chance he doesn't actually remember.
Yeah, no, Joey B. days are over. He doesn't remember. I get it. He's not really in charge. But these black sites continue to be used. They're not only a blight, but an epicenter for torture and physical and psychological operations against human beings. That is not only never discussed, but never really investigated. And it's only because of people like, Julian Assange and Seymour Hersh doing those articles about it based on Julian Assange and WikiLeaks' releases.
You got a hardcore echo issue.
Yeah,
God damn it, you guys. Okay, maybe I should bounce. I don't know.
No, I can't hear you when you did that. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So I was done with my little rant and rave.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good that people are talking about this again, because we had 19 years of Gitmo now. This last month, what was it? 2 months ago, and you just think, how is this place even open? once we found out what went on. Because whenever I see all of Julian's stuff, right, when I see WikiLeaks and the revelations, my first instinct is, we said, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So now we've had all this sunlight. What's happened? And the answer is really, it's not just about sunlight and transparency. It's also about power and how we organize as citizens to, to not put up with the false left, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and to actually, stand behind those that are willing to stop fighting around the world and start investing in paying people a reasonable wage and giving children schooling and getting them some food. And we've got so many problems, and here we are spending billions and millions either trying to go into outer space or trying to bomb the hell out of another country, which is, for example, with Libya. They've completely destroyed Libya, which was fairly well advanced despite Gaddafi, or rather, perhaps, given, not that Gaddafi was a saint, but there were serious improvements made in Libya, and now it's back to open air slave markets.
Mm-hmm. No, it's shameful, but when you talk about why they're not doing this or why they're trying to go to space, they're not trying to go. They're militarizing space on the next level. That's all that's going on. I can promise you that this is just an extension of what they've done in the 80s. And really, even with this talk of leaving Afghanistan, what are you going to do? You're going to get rid of the combat troops. You're going to leave the high command there. You're going to allow the mercenaries to be there. And then you're going to rely on that open DARPA network you created by literally taking the biometrics of entire populations in Afghanistan and Iraq. So that's really, that's the deal. Anytime I hear we're leaving Afghanistan, it seemed like Trump did want to get us out of Syria, did want to get us out of Afghanistan. But when push came to shove, the military-industrial complex is in total control, and you're never going to get there by employing people like John, I want to bomb everything Bolton, or James, let's get him with a drone strike Mattis. It just doesn't happen that way. So, that should have been the first thing that the supposed, MAGA crowd or, Trumpers that thought underground superheroes were going to take over should have demanded. Let's get a cabinet in there that is anti-war. Let's get somebody like Rand Paul as Secretary of State. But these are things that we don't see on either side of the spectrum. And that really speaks to how much of a uniparty we already have under this predator class military media industrial complex.
Well, you've talked about it a whole bunch, Jason. The only reason that Guantanamo Bay got left open under Donald Trump was a hardcore propaganda effort, right? They allowed Guantanamo Bay to continue existing because they sold the people that originally wanted it closed on the idea that, we're going to put all the war criminals there.
We got John McCain there. Oh,
right. Without even using the term war criminal, just deep state cabal, right? And somehow the use of torture and all of that is justified if it's against someone you don't like.
Yeah.
Which creates this larger issue with the whole idea of this left-right paradigm, because like you're saying, it's all the same shit rolling down the same creek.
That's right. And that's so important because it did legitimize Gitmo. It's like, we're finally going to get these big war criminals in there. And I'm like, guys, torture is bad. Secret prisons are bad. They are not legitimate no matter who is in them. We need transparency. Don't you see? This led us to the road of watching Julian Assange being dragged out of an Ecuadorian embassy. He should have never been in the first place. And then fast forward 2 years to Twilight Zone style, where they've got him in a plastic box at his trial. I mean, this is madness. And unfortunately, I think there's just such a large segment of the general populace who no longer has the ability to critically think for themselves, because the celebritard infotainment culture that has just projected these talking points that have no basis in reality, whether it be on the war on terror or now, stay safe, together, stay alone together, all these things that they've been bombarded with, they can no longer think for themselves, and they really just take hold in whatever media establishment they lean towards. So do I like Rachel Maddow or do I like Sean Hannity? And there's not much difference, believe it or not. And they're all promoting that we need to remain in this war on terror in the Middle East. We need to remain dominant, and we know where that's got us. It's got us to a point where that same military-industrial complex, that same track trace database society has now been turned on us in this country and in Western countries all over the world.
Well, why do you think the troops are coming home from Afghanistan?
They're not coming home.
No,
Listen.
I know that, but we have more troops literally deployed in a war zone in Washington, D.C. than we do in Afghanistan right now, publicly, at least.
Sure.
Well, so if they do a drawdown, where do you think those troops are going to go? Because they're not going home.
I don't believe they're going home either, but I think it gives them a nice little PR spectacle. Think about it. They chose 9/11, the 20th anniversary, that you'll see Bill Clinton and Barack Obama and George Bush stand together with Joe Biden and say it's time to get out. And it'll be all propaganda. And again, they'll aggrandize those figures while demonizing Trump. And again, Trump's no saint. I'm not on a MAGA train, but at least he spoke out just the tiniest bit. At least the military had to lie to him when he thought he was getting out of Afghanistan. Still no nuts on Duma. Still, he sat out there for 2 weeks, said we were getting out of Syria. And look, we had that non-attack in Duma. He never stepped up to the plate, never told the truth, didn't pardon Julian, didn't pardon Snowden. There's so many things we can keep going on. Again, there are no superheroes. When you wake up in the morning and you go into the bathroom and you start your day, that's it. You're the guy. You're the girl. You got to get moving. So, that's why I love the fact that we do have all these whistleblowers getting together. I would even encourage, a lot of those are modern whistleblowers, people to remember Hepting versus AT&T and private workers like Mark Klein that were blowing the whistle in the 90s on the secret server rooms in all of the major telecommunication companies when they were taking all of our data even then. We knew about it then, folks. It didn't take Snowden to tell us that we were all being spied on. So the more people can educate themselves and the more people that can support these events. And how do people support these events other than just logging on and watching and sharing the links?
Well, I just wanted to highlight a site that if you don't know much about this stuff, and I was sitting here listening to Jason and I was thinking, I haven't thought about that, and I haven't thought about this, and I'd really like to know more. There's a little website. It's on Medium, which is the blogging site, and it's called medium.com/elephants in the room. That's elephants with an S, and it's meant to be really short, simple guides. If you've got a friend or a cousin or a family member who doesn't, or a young person in your house who doesn't really understand what's going on in the world, you might want to introduce them to it. It's easy to read and it's written in language that isn't all, high flown, like some of these books that you get. You don't even know what the guy's talking about because they're using so much jargon. So that may be helpful to people. And I must declare a conflict of interest because my husband runs that blog. So, but we're not making any money out of it, and there's no advertising or anything.
But Deepa, how do people support you financially? Because we know that unfortunately, without monetary support, it's hard to move the wheels and levers of justice. Unfortunately, you were talking about how do we go after these criminals. Often lawfare and civil suits are really the only way to get these monsters in court and see discovery in many cases.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
I've got a 6-year-old who's having a birthday party in 2 weeks' time, and she's so excited. Probably, all the discussions are always about party bags. Well, firstly, this festival is a labor of love. So everybody who's contributing to it, from the tech geniuses who've created the infrastructure it's going on, through to the people who are managing not the Zoom, but the other feeds and things, and the contributors. It's all, free of charge. I'm not charging anything for my time, obviously. Shouldn't, because again, this is a labor of love. It's a labor of solidarity, because one of the things the festival's trying to do, and a lot of people said to me when I was thinking about this over the last few weeks, they said to me, why don't you do it over 3 or 4 days so people have a chance to listen and digest stuff? And that's a really, really important idea, that will give people time to absorb this. But I also think there is a time and a place to have a show of strength. And I think this festival is just that. It's saying, here we are, we're all, we might be doing different things. Somebody's working on race, somebody else is working on class issues, somebody else is working on war, and somebody else is working in journalism. But we're all together because we recognize that the system is so corrupt and so flawed that it needs to be fundamentally overhauled. You can't just tinker at the edges. You have to fundamentally change how we engage with the rest of the world, especially when we live in, I live in, what is it, the sixth richest country in the world, and we have people queuing at food banks, including our nurses, and we have children going hungry and not being able to afford a midday meal while Boris Johnson and his cronies are creaming off millions of pounds of money, and he spends a few $100,000 redecorating his sitting room. I mean, it's just atrocious. It's wrong. And you know what's really wrong about this is that they're trying to make everything that is legal illegal. So, for example, what Julian did was legal. And oh no, Espionage Act, here we come after you. Oh no, we're going to extradite you. And everything that's completely wrong and illegal, for example, raping, murdering, torturing, policemen being able to do that to ordinary citizens in the course of duty. And it's now been made a law in Britain. I mean, this is just atrocious.
I was actually about to ask you about that, if you guys have seen or had any reports come out, because I haven't heard of any, that's why, but I'm over here in the U.S., because you guys recently passed that bill that gave, I believe it was almost 19 different government agencies complete immunity from all crimes, as long as those crimes are in the financial interest of the United Kingdom. And that's something, so has there been any whistleblowers or anything about what's happened there?
So, well, that we all know that's wrong and that's illegal, and it's only been passed because there is a Conservative government in power, which is full of cronies and which has been in power for 10 years. And in the opposition, we have another Tory in Labour clothing, which is Keir Starmer, who's essentially willing to privatize everything, willing to send the military everywhere, talking about, raising your British flag everywhere. I mean, this guy is a waste of space, right? And these two guys, these kinds of people are running our country. And then on the other hand, we have an inquiry happening right now, which is the Spy Cops inquiry, where lots of people, whether they were environmental activists, whether they were ordinary, members of the public organizing in a little left group, absolutely no danger to the rest of us. All of these people were spied on for years and years. And some of these men had children with these women, married them, and then suddenly disappeared from their lives. It was just absolutely horrific. And all of a sudden now they're trying to give them immunity too. And then they're having this overseas operations bill where they're trying to give us immunity for crimes we committed abroad. These are all illegal things. And they're trying
you actually had, in the UK, you had someone put forward, to stop the bill, that got rejected. And then you had people put forward amendments outlawing murder, outlawing rape, outlawing child sex trafficking, outlawing prostitution. And the UK government shot every one of those amendments on that bill down.
You just can't make it up, can you? You just live in this bizarre world where the Joe Bidens and the Keir Starmers and the Boris Johnsons control everything. And it's time for us to speak up. And it's time for us to get together and stop hanging on to the phony left. The Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes and the Owen Jones of this world. We just got to, we've got to look past them and look at what we can really do. Organizing the left and stop squabbling with each other and just get on with it.
Well, that's why I think Jason's event, just literally getting a Mother's Day festival going. Getting people together. I think he's even going to have a food truck there from the stream he did last night.
Well, what we're going to do is, listen, man, I'm going big. And again, it shouldn't be a revolutionary act to have a barbecue with your neighbors, your friends, your family, and the community. It's wild to me it's come to that, but that's where we're at, right? It's 2021. Like you said, up is down, down is up, illegal is legal, legal is no longer, there. Like, you can't. Espionage Act, my ass. We all know this. You know, it's just like you look at the counterintelligence document 2020 to 2022 under Trump. Public disclosure organizations are now Al-Qaeda and ISIS and North Korea, ideologically motivated individuals. And we saw that go into hyperspace after, the quote-unquote insurrection on January 6th. And now they're looking to expand their powers there as well to people that didn't even go inside. So, we see Nick Fuentes, who I'm no fan of, on a no-fly list. The guy should be able to fly. These are scary things that are happening right now. And we now have, by the way, it's up. I want to show people this. It's in its infancy. And right after I leave here, which is the next thing, I'm going to be taking my nieces over to the park so they can enjoy a nice little day, nice little Saturday. But peopleforpicnics.com is the website, and we're just asking you to come on down and enjoy a picnic. I'm going to be flipping the burgers. It's a gorgeous area. Baseball fields, soccer fields, a park for your kids, a skate park there. It's really a nice little place in my new community, and we're going to show people that the state has no right to put their boots on our necks, and hopefully we can find other like-minded people, get them involved with their city council, with their school boards, with local government, and into these larger issues of surveillance, freedom of speech, obviously what's happening with Julian Assange, and obviously what's happening to American citizens and global citizens around the world by their oppressive governments that, make no mistake, are colluding with one another. Guys, that is going to do it for me. Deepa, I wish you the best. I am going to be tuning in next week, at least sometime through the day, and hopefully maybe even covering some of the speeches, because you got a great lineup. And of course, Andrew, extremely proud of what you did over on Tucker Carlson. I'm not sure if we've talked on the air since then, but you did a great job there.
Thank you,
Misty, a pleasure as always. Guys, I'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks,
Thanks for
Berman.
joining us, buddy.
Later.
Bye, Jason.